Joseph watched over that mystery, and he defended, as every husband has a responsibility to defend life and the family. When he heard in that dream that Herod was trying to kill the child, he took Mary and the child and went into Egypt, because a man has to defend the life and the dignity of his children. And so Mary, after the birth, Joseph took her and took her out of harm's way. And so this really crisis pregnancy of Mary, if there ever really was such a great one, really Mary had that experience. And so she can be with every mother who is in a crisis pregnancy. And Mary, who said yes to the word and received the word of God, protected that life. Joseph, who stood in the breach, and Joseph, who had initially decided to divorce her quietly so that she wouldn't be subject to judgment and she would be killed, stoned, as well as the child would be killed, preserving that life. And then the angel said, don't be afraid, take unto your home the child's conceived by the Holy Spirit. And so we see the dignity of life. Had that Joseph not been that holy man, that just man defending life, then God, the Word, in Mary's womb could have been aborted, could have been killed, as well as Mary, and we would not be saved. And so this is the dignity. Our Christmas mystery shows us the dignity of every human life. And the church has been very clear about this from the very beginning with regard to the dignity of life, and that murder, that abortion of the child in the womb, of the embryo in the womb, is murder. And we have to do everything in our power, by way of prayer, sacrifice, by way of our voting privileges and responsibilities, to be able to stop the great Holocaust, the great killing of so many innocent children in the wombs of their mothers. We have, for example, even the church speaks about how even more serious it is to take the life of an infant, a young child, or of a brother or sister, fratricide, or of a parent, parricide, or of a spouse, because of the close bonds, human bonds and familiar bonds that we have. And so there's to participate in a direct abortion, formally by formal participation, there is an excommunication that the church assigns to that, hidden in the act itself. Just by participating in that act, then the person puts themselves outside of communion with the church. And that's to bespeak of the great horror that the abortion is, and also as a pledge to bring reconciliation. So this is one of the great concerns we have. Obviously the church is a great defender of life, and we're not alone in doing that. Many men and women of goodwill, our other Christian brothers and sisters, are joining us in that battle, even non-Christians, to try to do everything in our power to defend the young. And so we're obliged to do that. Since Roe v. Wade in our own country, there's been about 53 million, ending up this year, 2011, about 53 million. Numbers vary a little bit. Perhaps a great number more than 53 million have been killed, innocent lives from the womb. We have the threat now, for example, with even the Federal Drug Administration, Food and Drug Administration, speaking about possibly the morning after pill, being allowed that to be as accessible to people as bread and toilet tissue and toothpaste on the shelves in our pharmacies and drugstores, to make it very easy for children to be killed from the womb. And so we're doing our part. We have to sacrifice. We have to defend life. We have to speak about it. We have to pray. We have to witness. A lot of our people from the Diocese of Lafayette, our young people, priests and adults, will be on the nation's capital for the anniversary of Roe v. Wade, again, letting our legislators and our government officials know that it's a great horror to be taking life from the womb. We see this in Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed in the womb, when I was being made, and before you were born, I consecrated you. Again, Psalm 139. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately wrought in the depths of the earth. And so this dignity of life from the very beginning. This teaching of the church hasn't changed. From the 1st century and early 2nd century, we see in the Didache, in the Epistle of Barnabas, also in Tertullian and a letter to Dionysius, we see, you shall not kill the embryo by abortion and shall not cause the newborn to perish. Again, in Gaudium et Spes at Vatican II, this teaching is reiterated. So today on Christmas, we pray on our Christmas joy, that we might have the joy of soon knowing that every child will be conceived in an act of love between mom and dad in a stable family, and be given the ability to reach not only the natural potential, but the supernatural potential as a child of God. God bless you and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Father Champagne. Coming up next, in a conversation with Bishop Michael Jarrell, Monsignor Richard Green interviews Bishop Jarrell about a year in review, the diocese in 2011.
In the Gospel, the Lord tells us, "Blessed are the merciful, mercy shall be theirs." I'm Bishop Michael Jarrell. I'm so humbled by the generosity of thousands who give to the Bishop's Services Appeal each year. The mercy you show ensures that the most vulnerable among us can be served when we do the work the Lord enjoins us to do in His name. I thank you for your support. Mercy shall be yours. The Lord promises it.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Since this is our last program for this year, we want to present a brief review of major events in the Diocese of Lafayette, and there's no one better to help us do this than Bishop Michael Jarrell, our Bishop. Bishop, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Bishop, what impressed you during the last year, this past year?
Well, first, let me take a moment also to say personally Merry Christmas to everybody in our viewing audience today. And it's hard to believe that another year has gone by, but it has. And as I look back, there were so many things that really impressed me. And really, we have a limitation of time here. I'll not be able to cover everything, so I ask forgiveness in advance if I did not mention somebody's favorite activity during the year. So I'll try to recall several, not to say that they're necessarily the most important, but just to say that I will recall several of them.
Then let's start chronologically, Bishop.
Well, okay.
Start in January.
In January last year, we recall the many pro-life activities in the diocese, commemorating that infamous Roe versus Wade decision of the Supreme Court on January 22nd, 1973. So every year in January, we kind of focus on these pro-life activities. Within the diocese, different parishes and groups sponsored marches and rallies, and you know, I support that activity. I encourage it, and a lot of our people are really dedicated to this pro-life cause. I think it's very important that we continue to protest this real injustice to the unborn, and keep this before the mind of the nation, that these protests must continue to go on as long as we have the strength to do so. So that's one thing I remember every year in January as being very important.
Well, Bishop, what next? What other event?
Well, in February this past year, the diocese launched its new website, www.diolaf.org. It was a step forward for us. It's not the most technologically perfect website among dioceses, but we're continually improving it. And I would just remind people that much of the information they might seek about the activities in the Diocese of Lafayette or the personnel are available right there. I know that some people do not have access to the internet, but many people in the diocese do, and so information is available. But February last year also had other things. For example, the Missionaries of Charity celebrated 25 years in the Diocese of Lafayette. Many people know the Missionaries of Charity is an order of religious women. It is Mother Teresa's order, Blessed Teresa of Calcutta, as we call her now. And they have been active in the diocese now for 25 years with a quiet ministry to the poor. They have a very quiet ministry, but a very effective ministry of going into homes, looking after the poor and the elderly, seeing to their needs, ministering to them spiritually as well. Currently, in the convent here in Lafayette, there are 4 missionaries of charity. 1 is American, 2 are from India, and 1 is from Africa. And it's a very good group, and we're happy to have in the diocese. I might mention at this time that not in February, but at other times during the year, we have had special anniversaries. For example, in May, the Carmelite sisters at the monastery here celebrated 75 years in the Diocese of Lafayette. And that was a beautiful Mass, a beautiful celebration. And of course, I know that so many people in the diocese appreciate the presence of the Carmelite sisters who have been a part of our church life here now for 75 years. And in June, St. Paul's Church here in Lafayette, an historic church, celebrated 100 years, and that's a big milestone. They had a great celebration, and I was happy to be there for that. And then, of course, in Lent, we had the television ads, Catholics Come Home, and we talked about that last week on this program, but it was a very significant event and is still remembered by a lot of people. So there are a number of things that I remember last spring.
Okay. Well, Bishop, in June, you ordained 4 priests for our diocese. Did that make your list of important events?
Well, yes. We're always happy when priests are ordained for service to the people of the Diocese of Lafayette. We ordained 4 men to the priesthood last June, and I think all 4 are doing well at this time, so I ask people to continue to pray for them. We also ordained last year in May 1 deacon, transitional deacon, a man who will be transitioning into priesthood or being ordained to priesthood this coming year in June. So we ask prayers for him as well. Okay.
I think the first Sunday of Advent, November 27th, brought a change in the celebration of Mass.
I think everybody is aware of that. It was a big change with the new translation of the Roman Missal because everybody, priests and people, had to learn new words and new responses and so forth. But I think we saw a lot of preparation of people and the priests. What, for example, in your parish, what did you do to prepare people?
Oh, Bishop, what we did was we began with the notices in the bulletin to educate people, inform people. Then I spoke at Masses, and we had a prayer card put in the pew to help them ease through into the change. And there was a handout, a brochure from the diocese itself, from the worship office, and all of these helped.
Yeah. In 1971, when there were big changes in the liturgy, I think we looked back and we saw that 2 mistakes were made. First, the preparation was inadequate. Well, I think we corrected that this time. I think everybody feels like they were well prepared. But the second mistake was that there was an assumption that if we changed the way Mass was celebrated, that spiritual growth would automatically follow. So I hope we don't make that same mistake this time and realize that the words are just tools, but that it is interior prayer and conversion that is called for.
Well, Bishop, thank you very much, and a Merry Christmas again.
Thank you, Bishop Gerald and Monsignor Green. Join us next week for another conversation with Bishop Michael Gerald for What It Means to Be Catholic with Father Michael Champagne, and Trista Littell has an interview with Carol Maynard about pro-life activities in January. We hope you've enjoyed our program because it is produced for you. So please join us next week on this station as we tell the people about the Diocese of Lafayette and the good news of our Catholic faith. From all of us at the Catholic Diocese of Lafayette, Merry Christmas.